it's become somewhat of a national sport amongst Wall Street pundits to talk about Nvidia, particularly to tout the risks of Nvidia. It's understandable. Nvidia has been the best performing stock for years now. We are supposedly in an AI bubble, and people are not understanding why there's so much money going into AI and what can be done. I understand all of these things, but I want to use this episode to kind of lay the lay of the land the way I see it in terms of what is actually, why is there this feeling of a bubble? What does it mean when pundits like, for example, Michael Burry, who's one of the more prominent dooms short type people, what does it actually mean when people like that open their mouth? And where do we stand with Nvidia? This is not our own podcast. It's November 28, 2025. This is Krimdelko. For the year, we're up 12.2%. The market's up 16.2%. We're underperforming by 4%. So Michael Burry has issued a few notes, or I don't know what exactly he does, but he's on Substack, and he sells subscriptions to his analysis. Now, for people who don't know, Michael Burry has made his name as a short seller during the big short in the mortgage crisis. And ever since, he's been sort of, a kind of a Dr. Doom 2.0, trying to, bank on people's fears, bank on people's, worst fears, actually, particularly if you're an Nvidia investor, you're sitting on a lot of unrealized gains, and you're kind of, you're almost like, you're feeling gravity, right? You're feeling gravity. You feel like, look, this has been going up so much, it's gonna have to come down. And then people like Michael Burry throw oil in the fire, and then we have this whole frenzy. Now, here's the way we see Nvidia. We've spoken about this recently, and just to finish the conversation about the risk, and the title of our essay actually that we're discussing here, Nvidia has risk, but it's not what you think. And the subtitle says what we actually think is the risk. The US has to lift all restrictions on Nvidia selling into China. The problem with Nvidia is not demand. Actually, the risk of Nvidia is to the upside. That means we underestimate the demand, and I'm gonna explain why. But more importantly, the risk that Nvidia has as a company, as a stock, is US policy restrictions. We can really shoot ourselves in the foot. And when I say we, I mean as a society, by hiding, by preventing China, the most important, most motivated, most aggressive AI market in the world, we're taking away a market from Nvidia that could be orders of magnitude larger. The Chinese want Nvidia technology. Yes, are they going to copy some of this? Yes, they will. They're doing it anyway. They're doing it anyway. They're doing it through Singapore. They're doing it through Malaysia. That's not preventing them. If we open up the Chinese market to Nvidia, the company would thrive. American AI architecture could iterate around this market also, which it can't right now. As a company, most important for a company is to anticipate demand and needs of its customers. And if you take away half of the market, then there's just not that much iteration left. So I think that is the biggest risk. I think as Americans, particularly, I'm talking about the US now, okay? I'm talking about the US as a country and Nvidia as a US company. What we've been most good at, Americans in general, it's innovating, competing on new stuff. We're not very good at keeping those innovations, safe from copying. We're not good at hiding. We're not good at punishing people for copyright infringements. What we're really good at is just running faster than everybody else. So we should be just running faster and let them copy, let them steal. We're not good at preventing. We're not good at controlling people. We're not good at making sure that information flows exactly the way we want it. Some of us tried. Unfortunately, during COVID, our society was on the brink of becoming an Orwellian nightmare. We stopped that. Like we can't. We're just not that. We're not. Our DNA is not like that. We're much more. We're an open society. We like innovation. We like, creative destruction. That's what we do. So that is the biggest risk to Nvidia. Now, let me just explain why we think Nvidia's actual business is anything but in jeopardy. Right now, if you take the AI situation as we speak, AI is just a fancy word for model optimization technology. So we want to build models and optimize them to predict stuff. So for example, if you have, physics, basic physics, high school physics, teaches people what happens if you throw a ball from the third floor of a building. And the way it does that is it creates a model, and then you can use that model and predict what's going to happen if you throw the ball from the 5th floor, the 10th floor, and the 20th floor. And in the same realm, you can have models with, this example I just gave has just very few variables. In fact, probably only two, F equals MA, something like that. Actually, no, you need distance. Okay, I don't want to go into physics here. My point is there's only a few variables. Now, if you want to have more variables, you need something a bit more sophisticated, and you can actually learn those variables, and that's what a neural net is. Now, the underlying technology is actually linear algebra applied through matrix multiplications. That's what actually happens under the hood. So Nvidia has been very good at doing that at scale in parallel. Nvidia has been very good at parallelizing, quantizing, finding ways to numerically express complex mathematical functions in simpler terms. So Nvidia has been very good at lowering the cost per token, lowering the cost per watt. And it keeps doing that. The next big step, however, is 4D training and analysis. So perceiving the world in actual 4D, which is 3D plus time. That is what Jensen Huang, CEO Jensen Huang, is betting the firm on. We believe that is a real market. We believe that it will come. Just yesterday, we spoke about Musk and his Grok 5 team potentially working on having a video-based League of Legends game engine. So analyze, learn from pixels, and train the model just from pixels, and then act from pixels. I don't want to go more into details about the technology. What I'm trying to say is that we're going to have orders of magnitude more demand for compute and more demand for memory and networking technology and software. And that's where Nvidia is very strong. Open the markets for Nvidia and the company will be fine. Close the markets and there is actually a risk. Ironically, that Nvidia becomes a Cisco. Cisco has not fallen because people were stupid or there was no demand. Actually, the demand for internet traffic has been compounding 35% since 2000 or 1999. That would have been plenty of growth for Cisco as a company, and they could be a trillion-dollar company, multi-trillion-dollar company today. What they missed out is they couldn't compete with the Asians. And that is the risk that Nvidia faces if we close their markets. Nvidia is a very agile company, but if you close their markets, you just can't iterate. And iteration is what keeps a company alive. Thank you.